Matt Upton, welcome back, my friend. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, very well. It's good to see you. Good to be here with you and
Oh, it's
everybody that's with us.
it's always great to see you too. I look forward to chatting and having these conversations with you so much now. We took such a long break from doing these, and having you on the show from last episode to this episode, and today's topic, I'm really excited to get your input on and just kind of hear your thoughts on.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it as well, and heard some good things about our last time together as well. It was really good.
Yeah. No, I feel like there are people out there that are getting some good value from it. So hopefully they will feel the same way after we chat about this topic. And actually, to kind of introduce today's topic, I had an interesting conversation with a school district just recently, and I know you're speaking with school districts all over the country on a regular basis. So you may have some tips for me, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this topic. But the school district, it came to me and we were just chatting, having a casual conversation at a conference just recently. And they mentioned that here recently they've been having a real challenge with getting their team all on the same page. And specifically, the challenge was really coming in with, they've got people that are coming in that are brand new to the district. They've got some people that have been there for many, many years and have got kind of a way of doing things. And their turnover has just been really inconsistent the past couple of years, I think, to say the least. So what the challenge has been is really what are some skills and strategies that they can implement to keep this ever-changing team of theirs all on the same page, all focused on the same goals, and really, working towards the same outcome.
Yes. The unfortunate condition that we have in our community of school nutrition these days is that somebody comes on board, we sort of check their pulse rate, make sure they're breathing, and then we make sure they clear the background check. And 4 to 6 weeks later, after they've been invited to become part of the team, they're out of sight and with little or no training. And then if they come in May, they're not going to get professional development until August or September the following year. And so bad habits begin because nothing happened. And in reality, we need to have ongoing team building and strategy meetings every week if possible, a little short microburst of them, and at least once a month. We've got to do that. We've got to, if you're a football team, literally every week you're preparing for Sunday. If you're a baseball team, 186 games, every week when they play a game, they're training for the next game. And they know what they're doing. And often in school nutrition, we say, wrap the chicken sandwich. And we don't really talk about the why that we're here. We don't. And I think there's 3 whys in everybody's life. And the first one has nothing to do with schools. It has nothing to do with students. The first one is their personal and private life. The reason they came to work here is because they wanted to spend more time with their family or they needed to pay some bills. The second reason is most of them are involved or drawn to some philanthropic cause. They want to have some financial resources so they can invest it in some philanthropic situation. And then in their professional life, they fall in love with scholars. They fall in love with students and the staff. And so as a director, we're hoping their main why is students and staff. Yet in reality, for many of them, it's their third why. It's their third why, because if they were independently wealthy, they wouldn't be here. They would not be here. They just wouldn't. Yeah. And so we need to do team building more often, because the once a year team building is a myth. It does not work. And it doesn't matter who you bring in. You can bring in the Don Tatsus of team building, but if you do it once a year, he will fall away. He will fall away. You got to do it more often.
It's so interesting because, you hear the saying, teamwork to make the dream work. But based off of what you're just saying right here, the dream is never achievable if we don't understand really what the dream is. And if we're
Exactly.
all on different pages, then we're never, it doesn't matter what skills, what team, it doesn't matter if you got the best talent on the court, to use your sports analogy, it doesn't matter if they're all working towards different goals. And
Exactly.
so, I agree with you 100%. Getting everyone, I think that first kind of pillar of building, a good solid teamwork. And we actually just had this whole team building exercise internally at our company, over at School Food Handler, where, we really refocused our entire organization on a common goal. And
Excellent.
when we refocused everyone on that common goal, and a lot of times, I hear people say, oh well, your goals should be these big, hairy, audacious goals that are like massive goals. And I don't disagree that you should have, some big goals that you're working towards. But I feel where people miss the mark on goals is they don't set small, achievable milestones
I
that
totally agree.
help them to get to those bigger goals.
Totally agree with that. In football, right? They start the year out. Their goal is to get to the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
they chunk it down, and their goal is next week's game. And at next week's game, they want to get more touchdowns than the other team.
Yeah.
In reality, though, the game is not the touchdown. The game is the inches that they move forward. Every down is designed to move the ball forward a yard or a
Hmm.
couple of feet. And in school nutrition, we don't do a good job at honing it down and chunking it down into our goal this morning. It's 6:30 a.m. and our goal is to be ready to go at the countertop for breakfast at this time. Then
Hmm.
afterwards, come back together. Now our goal is to reset up so that we can get ready for lunch
Hmm.
and make those goals smaller, make them quicker, make them
Yeah.
achievable. And then on top of that, we've got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
If we watch football, never will you ever see this. They hand it to you're the quarterback and I'm the running back. Okay. And, the play is called that I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to head through the line and I'm going to go off the right tackle. Okay. I do that. I make a yard. Do you know what happens when we get done? We just go back to the huddle and we just wait for the next down. We don't do that, do
Never.
we? We
No.
celebrate that yard. We
Yeah.
celebrate that yard, and we just don't do that enough in school nutrition. And so we slip away from our why.
Yeah.
Slip
Yeah.
away.
And I think there's so many different ways that we can celebrate those small wins, and even, celebrating the big wins. A lot of times I hear from people, oh, well, we can't give, financial compensation, tied to, hitting mile markers and stuff. It doesn't have to be a financial compensation all the time. It could be something going back to the old employee of the month philosophy,
Yes.
recognizing people publicly,
Yes.
recognizing people, making a
Yes.
post on your nutrition social media, celebrating it in the newsletter, on the morning announcements.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. There are so many different avenues that are not tied to financial, items that we can use as motivation to really give people, for a lack of a better way, a carrot at the end, to say, hey, great work. Here is a prize for, accomplishing, whatever milestone
Yes.
it was that we accomplished here.
And Wes, you're right on the money because you give people raises, right? And
Hmm.
we think they're going to work more and be glad and grateful for that raise. Yet most of us, as soon as we get the raise, our next paycheck, we've forgotten how much the raise was because we
Right.
adjust our spending to meet that. Now we need another raise. Okay.
Right.
And it's not about what we do here. It's again about that first why. It's about our family, our personal and
Hmm.
private life. And I think you hit on something about, I don't think most people are motivated by money. They're
Right.
motivated by other things. That's why I think that we need to do something uh, like, like my nephews played on a football team for their school. And
Hmm.
I loved watching them play. And I'd go to the practices more than probably any other uncle. Okay. And their coach did something almost every practice. At the end of practice, he'd bring everybody together. He'd talk about the game coming up. And then he would say, I've got a man. And then the team would say, Coach has got a man. And then he'd say, I got a man. And the team would say back, I got a man. And then he would pick somebody on the team and he would call them out for the good progress that they had made during that practice or that week.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me something. I learned something from him that I really deploy in my trainings and in my own life. We need to learn how to praise progress rather than wait for perfection.
Mm.
And
well,
so
perfection is not achieved. We're going to always strive, and get better at the things that we do. But perfection is something that is a myth. There's no one that is perfect.
Exactly. It's a myth. And so what they would do once he did this at the beginning of the season, towards about a third into the season, when he would say that, you know what the team would do? Somebody on the team would say, Coach. And they would say, yes. Coach would say, yes. And he said, and the player would say, I got a man also, or I got a man too. And the team would say back to that player, and then he would call out somebody. That player, that teammate would call out another teammate. And that's what we want in our school restaurants and school cafes. We want the team to be able to celebrate the good things that are going on among the team. And I think it needs to be on a daily basis. Yeah. It needs to be more often, because we serve chicken sandwiches every day. We serve pizza every day. Why not serve some accolades every day? That's team building.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But the interesting thing about that philosophy is that in order for that to happen, it has to start from the top down.
Yes.
You are never going to be able to start that from the ground up. If you are a leader of a school nutrition department, it starts with you. It starts with displaying these actions. You can't just have your one, team building, exercise in the beginning of August and preach, and have all these motivational speakers come in and preach towards, being a team and supporting and, patting each other on the back. And then you go back to, the office, and 2 weeks later, you're busy with all the things that get dumped on you at the beginning of the school year, and you don't practice what you just spent and brought people in to talk on. You don't practice those same behaviors. But yet, as supervisors, we oftentimes expect our people to just do it because, hey, we just talked about it in August.
And actually,
even though I'm not displaying it.
Actually, we do exactly the opposite. Instead of going out to our school restaurants, our school cafes, and finding our people and celebrating their progress, what we do is we go out there and we say, caught you doing something wrong. Gotcha. And what we really need to do is flip that and say, I caught you in the process. You're doing good. Oh, I love that. The way you talked to that scholar, the way you talked to that teacher, the way you talked to that parent was exactly what we want. And then we need to give them the golden ladle or something, and let it pass around. Whatever we do, some memento that we give to them on a regular basis.
I love that, because accountability is definitely a key piece of teamwork. But, we focus so much on the negative side of accountability, and exactly to your point, catching people doing something wrong. But we need to be catching people doing things right. Hold them accountable for the things that they're doing right.
Exactly. Wes, every one of us who's a parent or a grandparent has helped somebody learn how to walk, right? And our children give us hints when they're ready to walk. They start rolling over and we celebrate that, right? And they start crawling. We celebrate that. And then we take them at some point when we believe they're ready to walk, and we prop them up against the wall and we coach them out. Come on, you can do it. And we know full well that they're not going to walk. They're actually going to fall. And when they fall, we pick them back up And we encourage them and we celebrate the progress they've made, and we pop them back up against the wall. We coach them out again. They fall. And when they fall the third time, not one of us as a parent or grandparent looks at our child and says, I'm writing you up. It's obvious that you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever try this walking. We don't do that, do we? We know they have to fail forward, and we coach them into walking. And then eventually we take them off the tricycle, put them on a two-wheeler with training wheels, and then eventually we take the training wheels off. And when they fall, we don't take the bike away, do we? We encourage them. And that's what team building is all about, I believe, is encouraging them in the process every day, and teaching our site leads to do that every day. And probably it's my guess that since we started that conversation, there's somebody that's with us today that's in a school restaurant somewhere across America, and they're thinking, my director never comes out here, so I can't do anything. And I would totally disagree with that. At their site, at their school restaurant, at their school cafe, they can start praising progress of their people, and they will watch the atmosphere of their team totally change when they, as the site lead, begin to model this. And just ignore the poor performance, almost totally ignore it, and just praise progress and keep pointing to the big why. Keep pointing to what it means to be a school nutrition professional, an SMP. Keep pointing to that. And when they get tired of saying it, say it some more. Say it some more. And really focus in on that. That's what we've got to do.
Yeah, I think it's so important what you mentioned also about failure, and understanding that failure is an opportunity for us to improve. And that reframing of that particular word, I feel like at some point in our lives, you talk about, as a toddler, them taking their first steps and falling, and it was helping them back up. The toddler doesn't stop trying. I mean, I've got two small kids, myself. They're almost fearless to a fault sometimes, but they don't stop trying. They don't stop failing, because every single time they fall down or they do something and they get hurt maybe a little bit doing that same thing, they learn how to do it the right way. And that is so important for us as leaders, and as, any individual as a team, is understanding that the people around us aren't perfect. People are going to fail. We shouldn't point out people's failures and try and make them feel bad for those so that they don't do them again. Encourage them through that situation, just like you would with a small child, because we all fail, and failure is a good thing. I mean, I think the old Albert Einstein, saying, that someone was talking with Albert Einstein. They said, well, how did it feel to fail making or Thomas Edison, how did it feel to fail making the light bulb 1,000 times or 10,000 times, however many times he failed? He said, I never failed one single time. I simply learned 1,000 different ways not to make a light bulb.
That's right.
And that's really what we have to understand, is that failure is just a reframing of the way that we look at it, but it really is a positive learning experience.
Totally agree. I think that whole concept that you're talking about is nurtured out of us, because we do understand that as children. We do understand that as parents. They have to fail forward to walk. The pain of falling encourages them to walk. And what we probably need to think about is actually maybe even celebrating the failure, and reframe it and say to the person, I'm so proud of you. You goofed this up. Now you know what to do next. And what did you learn from this? And actually celebrating that. Maybe we need to rethink this whole failure thing, reframe it, and allow it to be that instantaneous team building situation, to where we come together and we say, gosh, Matt goofed up. He totally goofed up. Let Matt tell you what he learned through this failure. And we all celebrate that, because now that I've failed in that, I don't fail in that again. I go practice
Yeah.
another area. I go in some
Yeah.
other direction. And somehow I think we need to change that whole concept. I think we need
I love that because, let's be real. We can't always control the things that happen to us, the
correct.
events that happen. We can't control, how someone did a certain task. We're part of a team. We're all working together
Correct.
towards common goals, but we're not in control of all of the elements around us. But what we are in control of is how we react or respond to all of those
100.
different situations. And I think that by reframing exactly like you're talking about, the way that we respond to those situations is directly going to influence our end outcome. And ultimately, I think if we take the old Covey philosophy and we start with the end in mind, how do we want the situation to ultimately end up? And
Yes.
then let that influence how we respond to the events that happen to us.
And along with that, I think as leaders, as the principal influencers at our school district, when our team is not performing up to where we want them, rather than being upset with them, we need to be confident enough and courageous enough to come back into our offices and meet with our field supervisors and say, where are we falling short on training? And let the goof ups, let the failures out there be indicators that we need to change our training. Because often the reason it's happening out there is because we didn't train so they could connect with the training. And if
Mm-hmm.
we learn how to listen to them and to reframe the failure or the shortcoming into a learning opportunity for us, and ask ourselves, what do we got to do a little bit different? What do
Mm-hmm.
we have to do a little bit different? Because the truth is, here's the truth: writing them up because they goofed up does not change them.
Sure.
It doesn't. And we all know what the write up is about. Okay. It's not a corrective measure, even though we call it that. The
Mm-hmm.
corrective measure is, for me, if you and I, you're the director, I'm the assistant director, something's happened out of sight, we sit down afterwards and say, what kind of training do we need to do? And we
Right.
reframe our training. We let that incident become a training for you and I. And then we come back and we establish some positive moving forward training.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key.
And I think, taking this full circle, going back to what you mentioned at the very beginning of our call, we have to understand why our employees are there in the first place.
Exactly.
Because the training that we are offering to them, I mean, we can shove training down people's throats, but if we're not meeting the person where they're at, the training is just going to go in one ear and out the other ear. But once we
Exactly.
understand why this individual is here, what brought them to us, then
Exactly.
we can start to better understand, well, maybe some of these mistakes that are being made are just a misunderstanding. And maybe if we can help them understand that, hey, I understand that this is your goal and this is where you are coming from. I want to help you as an employee get to your goals. And
Excellent.
and reframe that conversation and help provide them with the training that is going to be needed in order to meet them where they're at, but ultimately bring them to where they need to be to help our team get to where ultimately we want our team to get to at the end of the school year.
So true. See, that's what's so good about what you do, is you give them that holistic style training that is transferable not only from their professional world to their personal and private world
Mm.
and to their philanthropic world. They can transfer those principles to those. And that's why people say all the time, I love it when he comes. West is here, because it helps me not only Monday through Friday here at the school district, it helps me in my service at the Little League or at the
Yeah.
Pop Warner, and it helps me in my home. And
Yeah.
because they came to us not primarily to serve scholars and students, they came to us because they wanted to pay their bills for their family. They came
Mm-hmm.
to us because they wanted the same days off their children have off. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to celebrate that with them. In
Yeah.
fact, this is a side note. We could probably do another conversation about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ought to promote that when we go to ask for new employees, new
Yeah.
staff. I think we would get more people if they understood part of the reason to come work with us and serve alongside of us is you're going to get every holiday off. You're not going to have to work on Saturday and Sunday, and you're going to be at
Mm-hmm.
home in the evenings. I think we need to say that.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of people that want that. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of kids that need that. Wes,
Mm-hmm.
your kids are going to be much better adults because of the time they spend with you.
Absolutely.
They're going to remember that.
Absolutely.
They're going to remember that orange juice they drank with you 3 days out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to remember that. And at a school district, we get to give that to our parents and families.
Yeah.
And that's what team building is all about, isn't it?
Absolutely. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it 100% is what it's all about. And they do those surveys of people, at their 10, 15, 20-year high school reunions that
Yes.
ask, who are the people that you remember most from
Yes.
your high school days? And
Yes.
inevitably, there is always a large portion of people that remember that cafeteria lady that
Oh, yeah.
that are or gentleman that they saw every single day, that always had a smile on and always gave them a warm hug in the cafeteria. I remember
Yes.
Miss Dunbar. Miss Dunbar was my
Yes.
cafeteria lunch lady, and she was just a doll. I mean, just an
Yes.
absolute sweetheart. Made the best chocolate chip cookies I have ever had, still to this day. But she was just, I mean, I'll never forget her. She made
Yeah.
a lasting impression on me. And
And where is Mr. Dunbar now? Do you know?
I'm not sure where Miss Dunbar is now, but I should probably reach out to her and tell her that,
Yes, you should.
because she really did make a massive impact on every single day, because she was the only person I think that I saw every single day. Because in high school, your schedule changes, so you don't always see the same teachers every single day, but you sure see that cafeteria those cafeteria workers every single day.
And potentially, it's those that work in the school restaurant and cafes. They're the only ones on campus that get to see every student every day, at least twice a day.
Yeah.
They're the only ones. Nobody else gets to
Yep.
do that. And that needs to be celebrated among us. We
Mm-hmm.
need to celebrate that. And when we celebrate those things, again, it's an ongoing team building experience.
Yeah.
See, and here's another myth that I think needs to be exploded. Everybody that works in our school restaurant or is on our team, they're not going to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have picnics together. Yet, even though they're not going to be best friends, we do need to be friendly as we do the serve.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be friendly with each other as we do the serve. Every football team, every baseball team, every soccer team, every team sport, they have somebody on their team that's what I call a pesky person.
Mm-hmm.
And between the plays, guess what? Nobody knows that they're a pesky person. Between the whistles, they play well. They play well together.
Yep.
And on our teams, part of team building is allowing them to not have to be friends. They just have to be
Mm-hmm.
friendly and
That's it.
celebrate the progress. That's what we've got to do.
That's it.
That's what they have to
Yep.
do. Yes.
Well, Matt, I could talk to you all day. I feel like you have offered some extraordinarily good, very helpful tips today. So I do appreciate your input on that. And are there any final parting words or any last piece of advice you'd like to leave everyone with today?
The only thing that I would offer is, West, if you were a director at a school somewhere, I would want to be on your team. I would
Oh,
want
thank
to
you.
be on your team. And the reason I would is because you see the best in people. You see the best in people. And one of the things that you understand that if I could give to every director and assistant director across the nation is we manage programs and policies, not people.
Mm-hmm.
We influence people to be on our team.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is we have to get out of the chair, out of our office and out in the kitchen and
Yep.
celebrate their progress. They do team building every week. We
Absolutely.
manage programs and policies, not people. We lead
Hmm.
and influence people.
And I'll add one thing to that, and it's all about mindset. And
Yes,
we're only as good as the people that we surround ourselves with and learn from, choose to learn
100%.
from. You cannot bring your best to your team if you're getting fed bad advice. You have
True.
to surround yourself with good people that have good intentions and that demonstrate the values that you want to demonstrate to your team.
100%. That's very good. Very good. Thanks again, Wes, for allowing me to be right here beside you. I'm better
Matt,
because I'm with you.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and I look forward to our next conversation together. Ready?
I do as well.